I'm back. Well, what have we got today? It looks like it is Boss equipment. And in this case, we're looking at an EQ-200. And an old friend is a GE7. And what the differences are between them, and whether either of them or any of them or whatever can actually help you to get a great sound. So, following on from this review, this was the IR200, which I showed. I didn't go into the greatest of depth, but there it was. It's in a previous video. If you want to go and see that, you can do. There's no problem. But today we're on this Boss graphic equalizer, the EQ-200, which has got some very interesting points in it, by the way, and the more old-fashioned GE7. Yeah, so let me get these out of the box and then we'll go a bit further. Well, there's the two of them. And if the truth's known, it's more about this one today than it is that one. However, I'll talk about that one as we go. I'm not going to pull it apart or anything like that. But I just wanted to raise the point about that one as opposed to this one, because that one's rather cheaper. Yeah, in fact, it's substantially cheaper. So hey, what's this thing really all about? I mean, you're probably a guitarist, it's probably why you're watching, but you could be a bass guy or a keyboard guy for any one of these devices. I mean, they're not subjective to people. You know, I only work with guitarists type of thing. It doesn't work like that, as you know. So, what's it about? Well, each one of these two can change your sound quite dramatically, and one more than the other. It depends what you're trying to do, but there's this price thing which we'll come into later on, and we'll talk about that, and you'll understand why they're making both of them in the marketplace. And yeah, one offers different solutions than the other, really. So what I'll do is I'm going to get this one off here now, and we're going to have a look inside it. As I always do, I just really want to have a look inside this to see if there's anything that justifies the £239 that it is in the UK. That is not a cheap EQ. That is mega money, really, for something so, well, to be honest, so simple. But is it simple? Let's get the lid off and let's have a look inside first, see if we can see any of those chips and things. It claims to be this and it claims to be that, but the reality is it's just an EQ, isn't it? Okay, well, here's a quick overview of the board. You can see how well it's made. It's very much like the IR200, in fact. In fact, it's made in Malaysia as well, and it's probably comes from the same factory, no doubt. It's got very similar connections across the top here as the IR200, and these two down here, I'm not so sure, I don't quite remember the other one, but well, there they are, and they're both plastic and they mount onto the board, so do bear in mind that they are plastic. These, at least at the top, are metal on the output side. We've got a main processor there. I don't really want to peel any of this off. I don't think I will, but I'll try and compare that to the other one we saw inside the IR200, or one of the other ones, should I say. Overall, its quality is, well, it's exceptional. It's the same as, well, the IR200. I keep saying that, I know, but this is the way it is. This is the way it's built. So as far as quality goes, I don't really think there's any major problems. What I do want to do is to try and see if there's any other chips in this thing other than this big fat one here, and maybe that little one over there that you can see there, and a couple of little ones there, which, yeah, well, we'll see. Well, there you go. I have got a bit nearer on the lens. I've changed lenses and coming on a macro lens, so you can see a bit better. I mean, I've got photographs, and you'll see them as we wander around, but I can't really show you much else in this unit. I mean, maybe I can move the camera up and down a little bit so you get an idea of what's there. But getting in really close is reserved for the camera, the regular camera, I'm afraid, which goes into like a sort of microscopic mode. But at least you can see some of the stuff here that, well, that's what you've been buying. There is no other chips, by the way, underneath this board. Below this board you've got, well, the backside of this board with no chips on, if you will. And then below that you've got the control board, which has got the controls on the top of the pedal. So all you've got here is all this stuff floating around. One big fat, well, I could call it a mother, because it probably is the mother of all chips. Or not. And you've got this little tiny thing over here, and a couple of little, which might be even resistor packs up there. So there's not a lot to see. One of the things that there is to see still is this connector down here. And that was similar to the IR-200. And you need to bear in mind things like that. If you get any problems on something like that, there are really going to be problems. You make no mistake, there will be. So round the bottom of this board, I'm afraid, I can't really bother to show you, because if I pulled it off, all you'll see is just, well, little cables just sitting there, doing really nothing. So I'm afraid that's the inside, done and dusted on this one. I expected it to be pretty, well, to be honest, pretty average to start off with. Yeah, it is. By the way, just before I do wander off, this was the little board that was sort of sitting there. It just basically unplugs and you can put it back in as easy as you put it out. Okay, well, we're going to have a quick run across the front, as you should, and then we'll have a look at the I/O on the back and on the side and go from there. Well, you know it's a graphic equalizer, and here's the points that you can adjust, and this end one is the level, if you can see that. We've got a display here that can show us one or two things because there's a menu built into this system. And if you look at number 4 here, we've got a channel button. Well, what's that about? Well, it's one of the things that separates this out. We'll talk about it when we go back up, rather than sitting here poking around all day, because it is a feature that you might buy this unit for, and that's the thing. You've got also, if you look over here, a channel indicator. That's what they call it, and that indicates the currently selected channel. When the indicator's unlit, the display shows the memory number. So, let's have a look. There you go, memory 1. Okay, if you look further, that memory button is there, and we've got a number of memories across here that can be stored and selected with this thing down, further down, this button. The on and off, by the way, while we're down here, is just to turn the effect on or off, literally. More about that later. That's quite funny in its own little way. This memory switch here, you've got, it's a function of the foot switch, can be changed by SWFNC, which is on and off switch function, memory switch functions. There's a load of stuff in this that you can actually send to this unit with MIDI, and I'm not even going to get into it because, well, personally, I couldn't give a monkeys about having that going on this, at least not in a demo. It becomes too quirky. Irrespective of the foot switch position, you can basically hold down the memory button and press the memory switch, yeah, that one, to increment the memory number, or press the on and off switch to decrement the memory number. So if you hold that down and do that, we can see they're hopping through. I'm on number 3 now. You get the idea, don't you? Okay, so quick look around the back. Well, they are marked, but I'll run through them anyway. We've got an A and a B, and it says A for mono. So you can actually put stereo in. I'll call it stereo for now, more about that later. And we've got an output, an A and a B, or mono for mono output. So you can have mono in and mono out. I'll cover that when we go up. And then we've got this control and expression I/O, I'll call it that, which is really very similar to the IR-200. So we can have a number of pedals connected to that. You've also got the power connector, and there'll be a little bit more about that also a little bit later, which is interesting. Yeah, it'll be very interesting when you first buy one. Now this DC in jack, in the manual they talk about an AC adapter sold separately, a PSA-S series. It can be connected to the jack, and that's all it really tells you. It doesn't tell you the voltages or anything. You have to go through literally a 5-page sheet on the internet to find out which power supply this one needs. I think I think it's bad, and I think it'd be so easy to just plug in a Roland power supply and zap the unit. But more about that later. Okay, well, here we are. Just like in the IR-200. This Boss EQ-200 is so similar, well, you wouldn't know the difference. Well, first of all, you've got all the approvals down here. You've got the FCC, the CE, that's a ROS compliant one, that's WE, and this UKCA, it says CAN underneath. I don't know why it says that, because the UKCA is a UK one that has been postponed for about 2 years, they tell me. But here it is, and it might eventually actually get cancelled altogether, which I think's that's quite comical, bearing in mind the sort of costs that you have to go to get a product, sort of up to date with the legislation. Let's call it that. Bit crazy. So what have we got? We've got a MIDI in and a MIDI out. These are these TRS type of MIDI connectors. And Roland, needless to say, sell a cable, that's a BMIDI, that's BMIDI-5-35, to connect to external devices. And you've guessed it, it costs, well, I think they're about 30 quid, I could be wrong, or $35, depending where you come from. In any case, they are what they are. And equally as disconcerting, in my opinion, is the USB connector that's a USB 2 when everybody's coming out with USB 3s and have been for some while. Yeah, I think that's quite funny, and it is a USB 2, by the way. And I did want to just come round the back of the unit. That's where the batteries go, in under that cover. They do supply 3 batteries, which is, well, exquisite of them, not really. No power supply, more of that again later. And one of the things to note here is this unit was made and put out the door in May 2022. Now bear in mind, I bought it in something like, I don't know, it might have been October or even November 2022. Well, it's sort of been sitting on somebody's shelf for, well, probably 3 months or longer. So my guess is they don't sell quite as many of these as you might think they do. I could be wrong, of course. That's just a personal opinion. So that's all the connections. Oh, by the way, they do supply you with 4 little feet that you can fit underneath if you really want to. There now, that wasn't so bad, was it? You've seen inside, you've seen all of the things about it. Well, all of the simple things about it. There's obviously a lot more. There's a menu in there where you can change various parameters and so on and so forth, but nothing frighteningly dynamic. And by the way, there is no program for this one either. Not that you might need one for this one, but there really isn't one, except for a program that can send MIDI from a simulation of some kind, and I don't really want to get into that because I'm not going to go sit here all day doing that. It's a bit crazy. Some people will, they might have a need for it, but I don't know. I think once you've got these set up in your 5 memories, I think that'll be about it. Just a personal view, of course. But let's move on. Now I've got batteries in that unit. This is quite funny actually. And I want the guys who've never used one of these before to comment below at this time. Because this is actually, It's a classic. So I can go and get, oh, I've got a manual over there. I can go get the manual. And here it is. It talks about the power supply, the DC in jack. There it is. And it says very specifically, an AC adapter is sold separately. You knew it would be. A PSA-S series can be connected. Can it? Use only the specified adapter. If the adapter is connected while the power is on, the power supply is drawn from the AC adapter. It's all good, that is. It's all good. There's only one problem. Well, I've got the batteries in there. So let's turn her on. You hold it down, don't you? Well, you probably do, don't you? Yeah. Sadly, you don't. That's just there to, well, frustrate you, in particular, when you've just had it apart. So I put the power in. I could do that. Here I am, with the power. Is it on? It's not on. No, I can't tell you, actually, that it's already got batteries in it, and it would be on if you could turn it on. So the scary thing is, you need to answer it now. Don't come watch the video and then put the answer in that I showed you, because that's cheating, right? Cheating. Okay, I'm going to let you into the answer, because if you buy one of these, you could be taking it back to the shop unless you try and find it in that crabby little manual. It is in there, but tiny little letters out the way. What you got to do is you just got to plug something into it. Can you see that lighting up? I think you can. You can see it sort of glowing at the minute, can't you? Yeah, you can. Isn't it? Yeah, lights are on and it's all glowing and it's all good. And when I first reassembled this unit, I couldn't turn it on. How bad's that? Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on further. Now, I have got some information here about the EQ-200 system, because I went fishing, as you do, to try and find something. I've got a bit of specification here. Very simple specification. I'm going to use it to read, because that's live. I'm not going through the chips. There's nothing to show you on the chips, so we might as well look at the specification as best we can. It says here, simply sophisticated. Like me. Yeah. And that's why, really, yeah, you should be subscribing, ringing that bell, and choosing that all for the notifications. Of course you should, shouldn't you? Yeah, of course you should. It takes me hours on end doing this stuff, I'll call it that. So you should be doing that. I just wanted to give you a little poke on that. Right? Yeah, so let's come back to the simply sophisticated pedal. It says here, the 200 series, it introduces a new generation of pedals that pack advanced sound and versatility into a streamlined size that saves space on your board. Well, it can store 5 or 6 settings. I've got to agree with all that. It's true. Grab and go controls, well, multifunction switches, well, they're a little bit awkward down there. The onboard memories allow you to store multiple setups for instant recall. Now listen, that's a good idea. That's one of the features about this thing that's, well, I have to admit it's good. Yeah. So if you're doing a particular series of venues and you want to get that particular sound in different venues and stuff like that, that could be good. It says here, all 200 series pedals feature premium audio quality, yeah, with 32-bit internal processing. So it's a 32-bit processor we've gleaned out of them, because there's no other information, or very little. And it offers support for external control via foot switches, an expression pedal, or MIDI. And the MIDI seems to be a bit of a pain in the rectum. Yeah, that's it. It's the most flexible, compact EQ ever created for guitar and bass, they say. Not me, I'm just reading that. It features 2 wide-ranging 10-band EQ channels. Now remember that, won't you? 2 10-band EQ channels. It says 2 of them, though. I don't see 2 anywhere, do you? Well, actually, you do. You have seen 2, because you've seen an A and a B in at the top, and an A and a B out. There it is. It's rambling on here. Your little screen here shows you the curve for what that's worth. You want to listen to the curve rather than look down there at it. It says it's got a selectable signal flow structuring that configure the channels for stereo, parallel or series operation, and it's possible to patch in external pedals for deep pre-post tone shaping. And going further, the frequency centers of all 10 bands can be set in 3 different types, letting you optimize the EQ-200 for different instruments. Well, you know, that's good. This thing about the 2 EQs and the parallel and the series and all this stuff, that's what sets this apart. Yeah. I'm just going to move that over there because, to be honest, it's all a bit boring, some of that. This might be a bit of spec in a minute, but let's just consider where we're at. You remember this one, don't you? Of course you do. This was here when we started some while back, 10 minutes ago, or whatever it is by now. This GE7, I can pretty much guarantee has been around longer than that thing there. How many guys haven't used? Well, there's probably lots of people that haven't used EQs for the guitar type of thing, you know. Yeah, sure there's lots of them. But the fact is, I hate to say this, but these, or those, or really any EQ, is probably one of the most useful pedals that you could ever have. It can change your tone in ways that you can't really do it any other way. Now there's a guy on my channel, he knows who he is, well he will do when he watches this. I won't name people because I don't do that, but he said, yeah, well that pedal's alright, well you want to get your sound right from the start. You want a decent guitar and a decent tube amp, or I think he did, yeah, he's a tube amp guy. And you know what? He's dead right. He is dead right. If you haven't got that in the first place, what are you playing at? Literally, what are you playing at? But of course, when you've got that, you might want to go further. You might want to do, I don't know, tone bender. Here it is, or that one. And in the case of that one, you could use that in your studio, or you could use it live, or whatever use you've got for it. But it's designed to sit on your pedal board, but it could be in the studio. It doesn't have to be on a pedal board, let me tell you that. This is, think of this. This has got 3, 6, this has got 7 adjusters and a master. That's got 10. So it's a bit more accurate and you can do a bit more things with it. But that thing there has this parallel or series, or call it what you will, that this one doesn't have. And these ones aren't threepence each. I think these are about £90 or something. It'll be on the screen now. I didn't write down what we paid for, well, what I paid for this. And by the way, I have paid for everything in this video. There's nothing come from the likes of Roland, not even the the processor information. Yeah. Well, while we're on the subject, let's have a quick look, see if I've got any specifications down here. Well, shiver me timbers, and I can't say that without laughing. I've got some specs, so let's just have a look, a quick look. We're not going to mess around forever. Its sampling frequency is 96 kilohertz. It's got an A to DA conversion of 32 bits. It's got a 32-bit floating point processor. It's got 127 plus a manual memory, 127 storage points, I guess. Nominal input, I'm not going to waste your time with all of that. It's got a buffered bypass, it says. It's got on-off controls, memory switch, blah, 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 blah. The display's a 64 by 32 dots backlit LCD. Yeah. What else? I'm not going to bore you with all the current draw. That's important. There's 170 milliamps on that. And the expected battery life under continuous use is pretty sad, really. It's 7 hours. I don't know, that's very good. These figures will vary depending on the actual conditions of use. What do you mean you play lightly? You rockers, it'll last about 20 minutes, right? Yeah, and it hops on down here, and it's still, even now, in the specification sheet that I printed out off their website, it's even now saying AC adapter PSA-S. Come on, this is crazy. Why aren't you putting the PSA model in the spec? And the voltage and plus or minus, because it doesn't even tell you on the back anymore. Maybe it's a ploy by Roland Boss to make you blow your units up so you've got no warranty. Would that even make sense? I don't know. But I can tell you what, if you put a 12 volt power supply into it and it happens to be 5 volts, you could blow it up, I guess. I'm pretty sure you could. I find it very frustrating, really. So let me do a bit of digging. I'm going to tell you right now what power supply you need for that thing. And if I don't, it'll go off and stay off and will have been blown up. You can see it's plugged in. It's got its lead in the input, so we can actually see what's happening. Now that power supply happens to be, let me pick it up. It's a Roland power supply. Has it gone off yet? Not yet. Good. And it happens to be a PSB-1U, which I think they've changed to a PS something or other 230 these days. Something like that. But I can see it working on a PSB-1U. Seems to be fine to me. Question is it? All I can say is that this one actually worked on a PSB-1U, so they're the same series, but it doesn't prove anything. I particularly dislike this approach where they're not actually telling you the power supply. Maybe it's to make you buy theirs that they appear to have made by another company. When you go to the 5 or 6 pages of power supplies, it's a real gripe, this is, because trust me, not a good idea. Nobody talks about this junk, do they, like that? You know, this is a junky method. There's nothing on there to help you get a different power supply than theirs. I hate it. You think about that yourself and put down in the comments what you think about power supplies when they're not marked up and they don't tell you the plus and minus for the which is the plus in and which is the minus in and all that sort of thing. You just put it down in your comments, because I really don't like that. I think it's horrible. So thinking about any type of EQ, is it going to help you? Well, it could. It could help you. I mean, I've got lots of amps in here and I've got lots of guitars and the rest of it. This is one of the things that could give you a bit of help. I've also used one of them BBE things. You know, you've seen them. I did a video some years back on a BBE. I forget what they call it now. It's like a red box. I haven't got it anymore. I give it a friend. But yeah, that was an incredible tone shaping device, if ever there was one. Well, this is a sort of tone shaper device, but different than that other BBE thing. And I think they do have the place, these. If you want to really tailor your exact tone, you might want a tone that nobody's got. All the really famous guys have got their own sound. Now, we could all argue, well, if I go and get a Mesa Boogie Mark 1 and I go and get a PRS Santana, I'll sound like Santana, surely. No. You probably won't. I know that it's in your hands and it's how you play and all this, that's what everybody says. But the reality is, any dirt's on the carpet here. The reality is that, well, he's only got a pair of hands like you have, and it's nothing to do with his voice. And he's playing chords and notes, and the amp's the same amp. Could be in the same room as him, and he still won't sound the same, probably. But one of these could help you to just trim that tone a bit more like Carlos. It won't make you into Carlos, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to tell you. You go and listen to Hendrix, you know it's Hendrix. You go and listen to Santana, you know it's Santana. Go listen to Steve Vai, you know it's Steve Vai. Go listen to Joe Satriani, you know it's Joe Satriani. Or any one of the other tens of thousands of really great guitarists that are out there. Even guys like Roy Buchanan, you know it's him. There's no ifs or buts. Just right off. And what do you think about that? When you look at a device like this, or even this one, don't write this one off by any means, guys. Oh, it's still running. I'll be on all day about that. That's terrible. Okay, so that's the plan of why you would buy one. To that tone shape, just for that, whatever it is you want. And they can be very extreme, so often you'll see guys, I always remember the Mesa Boogie Mark V, you know. Yeah, something like that, like a V. And all you needed to do really was to move the middle one up or down. You could do the same with this one, of course, it's the same basic thing. It's just a quick setup, but all you need to do then is move the middle one up and down. That's at least what they said with the likes of Mesa Boogie. What do they know? Well, I don't know, but they've had it in amp after amp after amp, particularly the Mark IVs, the Mark IIIs, and the Mark Vs. And I've used most of them, well, all of them. So, yeah, why would you embed it in an amp if it was useless? Well, you wouldn't, would you? You don't want to get the price of the amp higher for no reason. So, personally, I've always felt that they do have a use. They really do. It's something that you can spend a bit of time on, admittedly. But at the end of the day, it could be advantageous for you. So, we are going to play this, by the way. I'm just going to play some chords, no music as such, but some chords so you can get an idea of how we can tone shape so easily. You might like the tones, you might not. That's not the point. The point is how easy it is to do. And we'll be looking at that a little bit later. I'm going to move on to the likes and the dislikes. There are no chips in this one because, well, there are no chips. Well, there's one. But they're not telling me about that particularly, are they? So the likes and the dislikes. Well, I do like how it's got a number of memories here. I think that's really clever. I do like how it's a 10-bander. I like that as well. I like its build quality. It's pretty good. If I say so myself, it's pretty good. Yeah. I don't like it saying on and off there. I went around in circles with that. Oh, man. You wouldn't believe it. I've been doing this forever. And, Okay, I also like the series and parallel, or single, or double, dual, if you will. Yeah, the sort of graphic equalizer thing going on. I like all of that. I dislike the USB 2. Whether you use it much or you don't, it doesn't warrant a USB 2 on a product that's not really very old. I don't like the MIDI 3.5 to TRS. No, I don't like that at all. Don't like it on the IR-200 just behind here. And I don't like it on this one. So there. If you do, great, good for you. What else don't I like? Well, that's about it really. Oh, except for the power supply. It doesn't come with a power supply. It comes with 3 batteries. And I don't like the 7 hours and they've run out. Especially with the price of batteries these days. Call me a skinflint. Don't. So, let's think about score. The IR-200, I had a look just, and that still says PSA-S adapter only. There's no plus or minus on there, or nothing whatsoever like that. And I let that one pass, but I'm not letting this one pass. And I'll tell you why, because it's a sort of concoction of Confucianism. No, not a Chinese thing. Actually, this one's made in Malaysia like the other one. Nothing to do with Chinese. I'm thinking of Confucius. You heard of him. Yeah, the thing is, if you don't plug in this, You'll be pressing that down all day. I've got to hold it 20 seconds, or I've got to this, or I've got to that. Even with the batteries, you don't go anywhere. So you look at the power supply that you don't own, and then you start saying to yourself, wonder which one it is. And then eventually, I didn't print it out, I wish I should have. Eventually you'll find that 5 or 6 page document on all the different power supplies that Boss makes for all the different... It's a nightmare. It's absolutely terrible. And your chances of plugging one in there, there's the wrong one, is pretty high in my opinion. This one's still going, by the way, so yeah, you know which one to use, I've told you. So I'm going to mark this unit down, first of all, because it's very vague about how you actually make this thing work. And the power supply, and the MIDI ports, and the USB too. It might sound great, but guess what? This one sounds great too. And it's less than half the price of that thing. Oh, that one's got 2 in. Well, that is true. I've already said those are great points. But I'm going to mark this one down to 6. Yeah, it's still good. Nothing wrong with it, except for it's £239 or £237, whatever it is. So which one would you buy? That one or this one? You want to landscape your tone? It's this one. The cheapest way, well, there might even be cheaper ones. And I know there are certain other pedals out there. I won't bother naming them, but they are out there. And some of them are better than that. I won't name them, but one guy did actually say to me, hey, Tony, such and such is better than that. And he's right, it is. I think it is. It hasn't got all the problems that this one carries. At least I don't think so. But this one had worked quite nice, and it's probably worked quite nice for the last God knows how many years. I don't know how long these have been out, but it must be a long time I've seen. If not this exact one, a very similar one, floating around for years on end. So the cheapskates, you're not really cheapskates, because he's not that cheap. You've seen the price. It's on the screen again now. Come buy that one. You don't want this Dual and any of this. That's the one to buy. Oh, you think it sounds worse or it doesn't do that? Of course it does. And then you've got the guys who want all the extra stuff. You might want to use it in your home studio. You might want to use it on your live rig and dual channels this, and you can route it there and do this and do... Yeah, it's got to be that one or the better one. But the better one, I think, is a bit dearer than that. So, horses for courses. Take your pick. Decide which one you might like. And wherever you buy it from, make sure you can send it back within its 14 or 21 days or whatever it is that they offer. It's my advice, especially on something like these. Now then, don't forget, it's nearly the end of the road for this one now. Don't forget to subscribe. I've mentioned it once, but I need to mention it. Subscribe, do the thumbs up thing, which gets the video to be seen by others, here they say. And yeah, click all for those notifications. You won't get many. Yeah, and don't forget to visit www.tonymackenzie.com, where there's a lot of old stuff on there and some not so old stuff. If you like amps and stuff like that and guitars, and it's all on there. That's it for now. We're going to go and have a listen at some of the ways that this can be used. I'm just going to twiddle a few knobs, so they say. And you decide yourself whether you could use one of these. It doesn't have to be that one. It could be this one. Don't forget, I keep saying that. So, yeah, it doesn't even have to be a Boss one either. It could be any. It might even be the one on your Mark V that you never used. Or your Mark IV. Or your Mark III. Okay, well, that's it. I've done best I can with this one. There's not a lot to look at, remember. And until next time, yeah, get out of here. What I've got currently is the Marshall amp. It's a 25 20 watt. You can see a picture of it right now with all the settings, well, basically at halfway. It's on low power, else it could be blowing the room out. If you get the distortion, it's this, like this. This is just as it is. So you get an idea of that. So I'm not going to change that for the first section of this audio bit. But here's a picture of the EQ-200 on screen now, so you can see where the settings are. They're in that sort of V shape, a bit reminiscent really of the Mesa Boogie amps. And it's in the manual mode, which you can also see there, and it's got a little green light on to show you that. And yeah, it's all good. There's nothing else been changed. That's it. It comes in through a microphone, through the audio network, and into the computer. So all the audio that you hear is absolutely unmodified whatsoever, except for my voice, and my audio isn't coming through the desk and being recorded. It's just coming straight to camera. So if it's a bit degraded, don't worry too much about that. But it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, so here's the first example. I'm just going to manually change the settings. As they're shown on the screen right now, yeah, it's substantially different, but I'm trying to make it so you can't really mistake a change in settings. You'll get the idea, so nothing else changed. Hold on. Now my guess is that was pretty noticeable, right? So I've got another adjustment going on. I'm just going to make a third adjustment and see what you think. Yeah, and I'm sure you'll notice the differences. Okay, well, I've changed a few things around. I've taken the master on the 2525 and pulled it out, which has shut it down into more like a very clean channel. Okay, nice and simple. Now here's the pedal on the screen, and you'll notice it's got M1 in it, which is memory 1. So you'll notice the sliders have been centralized up, but don't worry about them because they're making no difference really, because we're on the memory 1 setting. Whatever that's set to from the factory. Good, bad or indifferent, don't know, don't care, doesn't really matter. Well, let's just play something clean so you get an idea of, you know, what's going on in there, in a more clean sound. Here goes. Okay, well the next one's exactly the same settings, but it's memory 2 out of the 4. Now I do know it's different, but just pressing as you play you can hear the differences that have been stored in the memory. So memory 2, nice and clean, and yeah, you see it on the screen now. The only thing that's really changed is to memory 2. Unlike the previous one, although the things are set flat, the actual stored EQ is a different representation than what you see in the sliders. Always remember that, won't you? And it can be a bit of a pain in the arse, sorry, in the rectum, if you want to look down there and try and imagine what's stored in memory 2. Well, as you saw, that was a massive amount of difference, and I'm sure that those sliders have been pushed up further because it does actually drive the amp more. You know, you're banging more gain through all the time when the sliders have been pushed up. I know you don't see them at the moment, but that's because it's just memory. So yeah, well, the next one coming up is memory 3, as you can see on the picture on screen now. And yeah, there's not much I can say about it except that it is memory 3 and nothing else has changed. Okay, I could hear that the top end had certainly been taken away on that one. No messing, and it was in the other room and I could tell. Just no problem. Anyway, we're on the last one now that I'm going to go through on this EQ-200, which is memory 4. You can see it on the screen now. Once again, the only thing you can really see is it says memory 4, and it's in red, chosen, and the sliders are just across. Well, that's the roundup of the EQ-200, and just for the fun of it, I'm going to take that GE7 and just put it on for one little go on a bit of distortion on the amp. Let's just see what sort of tones we get out of that, just for the fun of it.